The story begins on August 2nd, 1993, in the Khamar Daban mountains of southern Siberia. A group of students visiting from Petropavl in Kazakhstan planned to hike from the shores of Lake Baikal and summit Kangula. But one day something disturbing happened that killed them except one hiker. 17-year-old Valentina Utochenko, the sole survivor, described hearing Alexander screaming. He was frothing from the mouth and blood was pouring out from his eyes, ears and nose. Let's see what was actually happened. On August 2nd, 1993, in the Khamar Daban mountains of southern Siberia, a group of students visiting from Petropavl in Kazakhstan planned to hike from the shores of Lake Baikal and summit Kangula. Khamar Daban, a mountain range in southern Siberia in the Republic of Buryatia, Russia, was a popular tourist hiking spot. In the summer of 1993, Lyudmila Korovina of the Petropavl Azimut Tourist Club, an experienced hiking instructor and a master of sports in hiking, planned a hiking trip to the Khamar Daban mountains. The 7 hikers were Alexander Kyasin, Tatiana Filipenko, Denis Shvachkin, Valentina Utochenko, Victoria Zalesova, Timur Bapanov, and leader Lyudmila Korovina. They were reportedly a tight-knit bunch of good friends. Starting on the 2nd of August 1993, their trip led from the village of Marino, along the Langutai River, through the Langutai Gates Pass, along the Barunyung-Katsuk River, up the Kanulu Mountain and along its ridge, ending on the watershed plateau of the Anigta and Baiga rivers. Korovina's group was meant to cross paths with her daughters on the 5th of August. The first 2 days of the hike turned out to have gone better than the group had planned, with them making good time up Retranslator Peak. However, on the 4th of August, as they were beginning their descent, they were hit with an unexpected rainstorm. Korovina decided to make camp in an exposed location, with the group failing at an attempt to build a fire that night. They managed to build a fire in the morning of the 5th of August and ate breakfast together before continuing their path. The following day, they were supposed to meet another group of hikers, which included some of that group's relatives, at a specified location. However, they did not show up. The second group, which included Korovina's daughter, Natalia, continued down the mountain, assuming that the first group had simply been delayed by the bad weather and wet equipment. From the first means the group of Korovina while descending down the mountain at the altitude of 2,396 meters. Krisin, who was at the back of the group, started screaming. He was bleeding from his eyes and ears, frothing at the mouth. He fell to the ground convulsing and then went still. Korovina ran up to him, trying to get him to gain consciousness. A moment later she cried out, having the same symptoms as Krisin. She convulsed and then collapsed on top of Krisin. Filipenko, who had gotten to Korovina first, was the next to collapse, grabbing at her throat as though she couldn't breathe. She crawled over to a nearby rock and bashed her head against it until she went limp. Zalesova and Bapanov started to run. While running, they collapsed and died, throwing up blood and clawing at their own throats, tearing their clothes off. Utochenko and Shvachkin hurried away, but shortly after, Shvachkin also collapsed, convulsing. Utochenko ran down the mountain, set up a tent for the night under tree cover, and fell asleep. On the next day, she returned to the site of her friend's death to retrieve supplies she needed from their bodies. For 4 days, she followed power lines down the mountain in hopes that someone would find her. She found a river and started following it. On the 9th of August, she was found by a group of Ukrainian kayakers who took her to the nearest police station where a report was filed. Despite reporting the incident to the authorities, it wasn't until August 24th that a search for the group began, and they were found 2 days after that. The clothes and backpacks were bright. The group was lying on a clear slope 250 meters below the main ridge towards the Snezhnaya River basin. One witness to the rescue, Alexei Levinsky, told, "There were also 300 meters left to the edge of the forest. I don't remember birds singing or flying there, not even crows, at the place of death. The bodies were recovered 2 weeks later and autopsies were performed." Korovina apparently had died of cardiac arrest. The others showed signs of protein deficiencies in muscles that suggested starvation, dubious on a short trip. Meanwhile, fluid buildup in the lungs indicated hypothermia. Nevertheless, doctors ruled these two conditions as the likely causes of death. However, this does not explain why they died within minutes after presenting no prior signs. So what happened? While missing appendages and eyes may sound pretty mysterious, this could easily be put down to scavengers. However, the cause of their deaths is much more subject to speculation. Some have suggested that it could have been due to a lack of oxygen, which can cause hallucinations amongst other problems. But the mountains are not high enough for altitude sickness to occur. Multiple theories have been proposed to explain what caused the hikers' deaths. Rescuers Valery Tatarnikov and Vladimir Zinov, who took part in the search operation for the bodies, claimed that it was impossible for the hikers to die of cold. Zinov suggested that they might have died of altitude sickness. Tourist Vladimir Borzenkov and member of the search operation Nikolai Fedorov suggested that the hikers went mad due to infrasounds. Yuri Golius, the leader of the search operation, blamed their deaths on Korovina's negligence, claiming she was starving her students, which caused them to have vitamin deficiency.